Welcome to the Captain's Log, Stardate 6/20/2024. My name is Danjavin. Today we're going to be taking a look into part 2 of our Voyage Events preview. A little bit of a data mining expedition to see if we can find some crew that we may want to get to work on over the next 6 weeks until we see our first Voyage Event. And also today we're going to be taking a look at the dapper young gentleman you see on your screen, ready to rumble. It's Ensign Kirk. Another purple, this one coming up in our final Mega Week, the full faction event. Coming up next Thursday. Let's dive in first with Ensign Kirk, and we'll see here what he brings to the table. So actually, I'm going to jump on over to the bigbook.app, and sure enough, take a look. Tier 1. Is a purple a Tier 1? Well, relative to all of the purples, Ensign Kirk certainly is. This crew has a lot going for it. First of all, just notable that it's a Timelines Originals. Ensign Kirk never appeared in this uniform. I think this is Finnegan's uniform, the old TOS cadet uniform. I think it's the only time we ever saw it, so kind of interesting right there. But we're more interested in the stats here. So taking a look at a Psi-Eng dip crew. Yesterday we were talking about the Prime Minister Nayrock and how generic his skill set was. Here we get one that really swings for the fences. This Psi engineering is really kind of a strange skill pair. Do we see a whole lot of Psi-Eng shuttles? Not really. It's kind of a rare one. So, maybe less useful, but Psi shuttles alone do come up pretty often, so there's some application there. Voyage number 17 among all purples. So for any early to mid-game roster that's putting together the very first Voyage roster, he's going to hold his power toe-to-toe with any single star legendaries that you've maxed out. His power is significant enough that he'll be flying right alongside if that's all you've got. If you haven't gotten your retrievals online yet, you're not disciplined at saving up those credits to be able to make your retrievals on schedule and really max out a crew early on, then Ensign Kirk is actually going to be a frequent flyer for you. I think he starts with 3 collections, 1, 2, 3, plus the Timelines Originals Vanity collection. So you're going to be getting a few ticks on your collections if you can finish them, but the difficult part is since he's featured in that faction event, all of us are only going to be earning 3 copies of Ensign Kirk. So there are a few ways to get that 4th copy. First, if you do plan to dive into the Mega Recap packs, those purples come up probably like a 10-to-1 ratio to any golds you can pull. So, certainly if you're going to be pulling any quantity of those Mega Recap packs, you could probably expect to get your 4th copy of Ensign Kirk. So no need to sight him up immediately upon getting your first 3. I've already made the decision on passing on the Mega Recap packs. So that leaves me with the decision. Do I want to sight this crew up and finish him off and freeze him, or even maybe just keep him around if he's going to be useful? It's tough. I don't know that I'm going to be making that move immediately. I'm not close in any of the 3 collections Ensign Kirk features here. So I think I'll probably sit on him for a little bit. It's okay to sacrifice a crew slot for a little bit of a wait and see. And if he gets close, I've got him 3 out of 4. If it's going to put me over the hump for no rules for healthy discourse, sure, I'll go ahead and get that collection tick. That'll be very easy to spend my purple sight on. But in the meantime, I'll probably just hoard. And if it goes long enough that he enters the portal and I randomly get a copy, hey, that's great too. That was a cheap freeze. Now we're going to jump back into our Voyage discussion. So I'm going to jump back to a little clip of something that I recorded yesterday. When we last spoke, we were looking at the big book, and we had done a little bit of pre-sorting to try to find crew that were top gauntleters but also had a decent voyage power that could be usable. So we had been able to drill down and find a few dozen crew that seemed to fit the bill. So what you're going to see next, we're going to go back to take a look at the individual crew, take a look at their proficiencies, and also their equipment to see just how far that feature can take them in the new events. So we'll be back in a moment. I'm going to do quick hits on these just to show you what skills they hit and any other little details here that are going to help you. So the Elder here has kind of a low command primary. There's much more strong command crew that you can pull out, but a lot of them happen to actually be exclusive, so it's kind of rare. But I think what really drives this crew up is just the sheer power that this crew brings to voyages, and also has some a little bit higher than normal, at least in the primary and secondary, higher than normal proficiencies. Captain Braxton, a very old crew, tier 1 reigning champion for I think 3 years straight, and finally knocked off his podium and then sank precipitously. Well, guess what? He's coming back. He's currently showing as a tier 6, and that is going to, I think, inflate once the Voyage events come back around, because he still features a pretty high command proficiency, higher than the Vidala Elder does. And look at this, the Eng secondary at 601. So this crew can actually pick up a few Eng battles for you, should they pop up. We looked at Gary 7 already. Take a look at this. The Psi and the Sec, both almost 1,000. What a fantastic crew. This is the crew I recommend to new players, just because even at the very first star, if you max out and get those at level 100 fully equipped, being able to get up to a roll of 900, that's fantastic for any early game crew. And then, of course, the extra stars are not going to add as much value as you typically see, but you're really going to need all 5 stars to be able to really go deep in these voyage events anyways. Dexa, a long time tier 1, now down to tier 5. Again, to rocket back up, I'm certain, because look at this med primary of almost 800. Just a fantastic proficiency, and so this crew also can go on your end sheet, contribute to med. A really great Swiss Army knife, and I think that she actually still is on some of my voyages, despite having a voyage rank of 167, just because of how strange her skill set is and how many places that she can fit. Mycelial Callbirds, Mike. So the 737 is a little bit lower than Dex's med. There we go. Yep. Yeah, a little bit lower, but still great, serviceable, and uses different seats. And the one thing about Mycelial Culber, this is the first crew that we're coming across that has a special equipment. So for this equipment, you can get, as with all physicians, the Genetronic Replicator. Oops, hidden. With this crew, you can get the Genetronic Replicator, and that pumps up both the Psi and the Med. And guess what? That's his first 2 stats. So this crew is going to be an absolute monster if you can equip them and throw them on a Voyage Event voyage. So here's where it starts to come together. Mycelial Culber was a retrieve candidate for a very long time. Hasn't been mentioned much in the past 2 years since we've received some much stronger med crew. But back in the running again, especially now with Continuum missions. And actually, I've been using him as my med node solver for Continuum, just because that Genetronic Replicator uses so few qubits. Uses so few qubits. If you're trying to do any sort of these med, the Good Samaritan, any of the generic med legendaries, you're going to be spending 8 qubits. And for anybody that's played Continuum missions for any length of time knows, those med qubits are the rarest to come by. And so the Genetronic Replicator, I think, only takes 2 or 3 med, and then takes some Psi as well. So it really helps dilute that, but you're still getting a full strength buff here with proficiency. So it's really going to be important to find this guy. I think this is going to be a key player. Dahar Master Koloth. This is the last. I think this is the last of the retrievables we'll talk about. This is your Sec solution, and I'll show you why. Again, he's pretty far down the rankings. Voyage 249, Gauntlet 86. But here we go. Here's the Continuum equipment, and Sword of Kalos for Sec, Shroud of the Sword for Dip. Even though you're building them separately and takes up 2 equipment slots, look at this massive 240 to 300 proficiency boost on the Sword of Kalos. Now, you all know that if you've been running any sort of Klingons to go through your Continuum missions, but even more value that this is going to add to your voyages now. Get him to his 5th star so you can start to boost him up, and you're going to be running these crew through your Continuum missions. After you've solved however deep you want to solve, go back to the very first one. If they're weak, if they're just starting out in Continuum missions, run them through just that first node on the very first mission again and again. Get enough XP to at least get them up to 2 slots unlocked, and you can keep going if you want to. It'll only make them stronger over time. All right, into our first crew featured for the unretrievable category, Frantic McCoy, and you'll see why these crew are just so prized. So we've got the 1041, over 1,000 proficiency, and also not a slouch here, the command of 904, and a decent med too, only just behind what we were looking at with the retrievable versions. Frantic McCoy does it all, and he's actually a pretty early drop from Fleet Boss Battles, so really you're going to want to take a second look at him if you haven't gotten him to 5 stars. Find any way to spend those sites. You can start running him through Continuum missions and really get him maxed out. Frantic McCoy, being a physician, of course, also can get your Genetronic Replicator, so just the sky is the limit. Now, the one thing, though, about the Genetronic Replicator, it does boost the Psi stat as well as the med. Frantic McCoy doesn't feature Psi, but it's okay because the med boost is actually equivalent to a full medical generic equipment boost. Actually, it's even stronger now that they nerfed them. And so you're spending less med qubits to get a full med bonus. So even if you completely waste the Psi, it's still worth putting it on. Admiral Black, I'm going to harp on him a little bit more for y'all. I'm going to show you these numbers again. Voyage number 149, Gauntlet number 2. You can't pass them up. If you have gotten lucky enough to get him off of a voyage drop, sight him up like I did yesterday. Make sure he's maxed out, because these monsters, psi and dip scores and a passable command score, are going to do wonders for you. Red Angel, the older of the Gauntlet exclusives, but powerful still, with one of the strongest, if not the strongest, Eng, and also a great psi. So certainly playable, and also a been a Voyage mainstay. Anybody who's gotten 5 stars on the Red Angel already may have seen her pop up on Voyages, so she can do a lot for you, and certainly going to have the superior roles and really take you much further along if those dilemmas that happen on the new Voyage events are going to be showstoppers. Caretaker is kind of an honorable mention here. He is very low on the Voyage rankings, still relatively high in the Gauntlet, but here's your Eng primary, and this is the strongest Eng that we'll see. Also featuring some meds, so you can throw it in that last slot if you need to. Really, it's just a one-trick horse here. The Caretaker only does Eng, but he does it very well. And finally, another Voyage exclusive drop, Voyage Defender Chakotay. So this one threads the needle here. We have Voyager number 47, Gauntleter number 76. So really, kind of mid-tier on both of them, and showing that here with the overall of tier 4. But because he does both reasonably well, with just under 1,000 on security and the rest of these too low to really consider, he may be your sec solution if you've gotten him from the Voyage events. Alright, let's sum everything up. We've seen enough crew here. Let's take a look. I've got data core up on the screen here, using the Behold helper to get a custom list to break down and show you my favorite 12. My favorite 12 crew in a vacuum. So it's a good point to pause and talk about what we know and what we don't know. So for these dilemma events, we don't know exactly what's going to be featured for each of these events. We can expect that there'll be maybe a featured crew for each one, maybe a featured trait, like we do see for Galaxy and Faction, and probably there's also going to be a featured skill, because we already do have that. We have the Gold and Silver Star skill for Voyages. For Gauntlets, there's always a feature skill that has a much higher percentage to feature in the Gauntlet battles. So we'll see how that all shakes out, and that's certainly going to mix up your roster. But what we're looking for here are a core group of flyers that more often than not will make it on those positions in your Voyage for the Voyage events. The most likely crew that you're going to want to start working on today. Maybe take a second look at your retrieval strategy. Also, crew that today, if you have fully fused, you can start running through continuum missions. Maybe these crew you haven't yet gotten any Q slots unlocked for. Start today. Once you've finished your epic level and gotten your gold behold, you've got maybe another 3 or 4 days worth of continuum energy that you get to run through. So take some of these crew. Just even the first 2 slots are very economical. It only takes 8 runs to get 2 full slots unlocked for each of these crew. Run them through that first episode on normal difficulty of your key missions every 12 hours. Don't spend crons, don't go nuts on it, but just start working on them, because when their time comes, you want to be ready for it. So here's my first list here. This includes non-portal crew. This is my dream team. This is starting off with the most powerful one, and then kind of going down here. Actually, let's sort by tier and take a quick look. So this includes Red Angel, Caretaker, and Vori. All 3 of them are RNG gated. You can't get them without getting lucky. Most of these other crew you're going to see when we get to our non-portal list here. Of course, Admiral Black as well. Frantic McCoy, you can earn him deterministically. All you got to do is just be in a fleet that will carry you through the first 10 bridge levels, and you're going to get 3 copies of Frantic McCoy. Throw 2 sights on him, finish him off. He'll be worth it for your Voyages anyways. But on top of that, for these new events, I think he'll be key. Let's go on to the list where we have our portal solutions. So if you cannot get those RNG gated crew, you're going to want to take a look at crew that can enter the portal and help you out here. So there's a few replacements. So because Eng is a little bit hard to come by, and some of our crew we're covering other skills. We've got Union Q showing up here, who can sub in for the sec slot that Void Defender Chakotay vacates when you can't guarantee him. Irina is a Eng primary with, it doesn't look like much. It's actually relatively high in terms of her engineering proficiency. We also have the Boothby replicant subbing in for Red Angel, and Amelia Earhart is another reasonable Eng option. And finally, we're going to take a look at these are the crew that are going to be your honorable mentions. These are crew that have reasonable Voyage scores. You see here we're up in the 300s, maybe 400s for Voyage scores. but also decent gauntlet scores. Some of them slipping pretty low, like 200 here for Stranded Quark. Maybe not a good mention, but these crew are going to be the ones that you're going to be running and working on if you don't have any of the other options, if you don't have retrievals lined up, and the ability to really do some hard work. And again, if you have these fully maxed, these crew here on this list, if you have these crew already maxed out, just unfreeze them, run them through continuum missions a few times. In particular, TKK, Triple Koloth Korax, really strong in Gauntlet. He has a specific equipment that he can bring. The sort of Kalis makes that security rating go burr, and so you're going to like to see him at least get a couple equipment slots unlocked. Mambo Picard, we all got our free copies. If that was enough to finish him off, run him through continuum missions. And Soraka, another, actually, a long time ago, he was really pretty powerful and a great recommendation for an early retrieve. I think nowadays he's kind of become a little bit irrelevant, but if you already have him finished off, I think he was one of the earliest mega crew. Unfreeze him, get a few slots open for him and see where that takes you. Really, these are going to be just your fillers if you don't have anybody that's really going to take the feature far for you. So I think that's enough conjecture for us to fill up 2 videos worth, and really that's all the information that we have. Again, don't burn a whole bunch of sites on suboptimal crew here just on spec. Let's take a pause here and just realize that we just don't know a whole lot, and we are promised that developers are going to give us some information in the form of a video in short order that's an actual demonstration. We will take that video and wring it out for every bit of information it's worth to try to find out exactly how that changes up my early recommendations here, and how it may firm up your strategy for how to prepare for these events. But in the meantime, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you in the next video. Live long and prosper.